What I'm going to do now is move into the description of the actual program for food and beverage manufacturers and processors. I do want to touch on who Provision Coalition is, so you have a sense of who we are if you aren't familiar with us. And then I'm going to talk about some of the root causes of food loss and waste in manufacturing that came out of some of our foundational research, and really how that has guided our program design. And then I'll touch on the specifics within the actual cost share program, what you can expect to see in the focused food loss and waste assessment. And of course, Bruce will give a more detailed perspective on that as well. And then also how we're going to utilize the tools within our sustainability management system to support you with your reduction efforts. So for those who are not familiar with Provision Coalition, we're a coalition of 16 industry associations. And we were created by industry for industry, and the industry has given us a purpose of making food sustainably. We are national in scope, and you can see the 16 member associations. And in terms of what we actually do, we're focused on facilitating economic growth and resiliency within the food and beverage manufacturing sector. We do this through 3 strategic pillars. Our first is our sustainability management system. So all of the online tools and resources that we've created, I'm going to show you a couple of them today that we'll use in the program, as well as our on-site programs where we work one-on-one with the food companies. Our second strategic priority is our value chain collaboration, and that's working on the mega challenges that face our industry that we believe cannot be addressed in isolation, that we have to work collaboratively with the entire value chain. And so we've identified 3 areas, food loss and waste being one of them, climate change mitigation, and responsible sourcing, that transparency within the supply chain that Crystal was talking about. And our third strategic priority is knowledge transfer, translation, and outreach. And in essence, what that means is sharing what we learn as we go, making sure that the industry is aware of all the opportunities. In terms of our food loss and waste goals, the coalition came together in 2016 and said that we need to do something as a coalition. And so this program is really our first effort towards the Sustainable Development Goals and Target 12.3. And so what the coalition has said is that we want to create a baseline of what's happening in Canada, put some rigor behind that data, and then really start to look at, can we achieve a 20% reduction to start, and then we'll align ourselves to that larger global initiative of a 50% reduction by 2030. We also want to make sure that the tools that we have available are being utilized by the industry. We've got some wonderful results from them, and they are available to all food and beverage companies across the country. Some of the outcome impacts that we're looking to do is have a look at the aggregate data. We want to first understand, again, that baseline. So how much food waste is happening in processing and manufacturing? And then we want to be able to tell the positive story. So through our programs and our interaction with industry, how much food loss and waste have we saved? And with that, the correlating energy and the water and the greenhouse gas emissions, the calories, can we tell a positive story about this is what industry has done to not only reduce and prevent it, but actually save it? And so we want to be able to tell that story about the percentage food loss and waste that has been reduced and what we've put back into the economy. So in terms of the specific details, this is, I'm sure, why you're sitting in the room or listening via live stream. When we started our journey in 2013, we did some foundational research, which was really mapping the food loss and waste issue in Canada. And we found 5 major issues, or the root causes of food loss and waste. The first being human behavior and the incentives behind it. The second is the time-limited biological reality of food. The third was the limitation of technology or a lack of advanced technology, equipment, and packaging. The fourth was risk perception and risk avoidance. So this has to do with the food safety aspects of food. And then the unintended consequences of regulation. Sometimes our tough food safety regs get in the way of reducing food waste or having to deal with it in a different way. And within those root causes, we were able to identify some very specific challenges and also, the flip side of that, the opportunities. The first was the processor or manufacturer flagged to us, well, the ability to quantify and track our progress. That's a challenge. We don't necessarily have the tools. The awareness that there's a problem. I don't have any food waste in my facility, I divert it all. Well, the fact that you're diverting it means you have food loss and waste in the first place. And then that mindset shift and the behavior change aspect. Doing your business differently can be very challenging. And then access to innovative solutions. And so when we were putting together the program design, we looked at these 4 components very seriously, and you'll see that we touch on all 4 of these in our program design. So what we intend to do is 50 food loss and waste prevention assessments for processors and manufacturers. You can be anywhere in Canada. You can be any size organization in terms of the number of employees at your facility, and it's by a single facility. And you can be in any subsector of the food and beverage manufacturing industry. We will ask that you use our sustainability management system, and specifically the food loss and waste toolkit and the key performance indicator dashboard, and I'll show you both of those this afternoon. You will be asked to do a Canadian public trust risk assessment that Crystal talked about. And then we will do an employee awareness session specific to food waste, where we will talk about the impact of food waste not only in the facility, but in their home, and we'll leverage the best food facts as well. And we will do that either on site or via digital, depending on where you're located in Canada. In terms of the focused food loss and waste prevention assessment, we've partnered with Enviro Stewards. And we've set it up so that you can do it in a couple of different ways. The first, or sort of the guaranteed assessment, if you will, is to identify 3 food loss and waste focus areas that will be analyzed. So you get to choose the areas where you think that you have problems in, and we will do a detailed analysis of those 3 areas. And then we will cost share against that assessment valued at $10,000. But we also recognize that there is real opportunity in the fact that we've got the team there. And so if you want to do a much more detailed assessment where you go beyond just the 3 focus areas, or maybe you want to leverage some of the other utility fundings, we're going to allow that to happen as well. And Bruce will explain some of those specific details. But the point is that we're going to do a minimum of 3, and the sky's the limit for you. We'll also utilize our food loss and waste toolkit and the dashboard, as I mentioned, and it will be available in both English and French, and we will provide a complete demonstration of the whole system so that you understand how to engage with the tools. I want to show you now the 2 specific tools for this program. The food loss and waste toolkit was really about quantifying in that first part of the opportunities and challenge slide that I showed you. It's about quantification, because we know that if you can't measure it, then you can't manage it or improve it. And so when we set out to develop the food loss and waste toolkit in 2016, it was really about quantifying the food that's wasted in the facility and identifying the root causes and solutions. And then we wanted to be able to give sort of that net impact or the payback or economic aspects of the tool. We've since done an enhancement to the tool. It's just about to launch, and it now looks at the environmental and the social aspects. And so the tool will give you an output in terms of the environmental impact, looking at how much energy, how much water, the greenhouse gas that is embedded in that food that's wasted. It'll also show you the social impact. So it'll calculate the calories of that food that's wasted, as well as conversion into meals. So you can get truly a holistic perspective and make an informed business decision about what projects you should tackle first. And what is really important is that we are now aligned to the Food Loss and Waste Protocol, which is the global standard on how you measure food loss and waste. A couple of screenshots for you, and I know that this is fairly small, but in essence what I want to share with you is that as you work your way through the toolkit, and Bruce and his team will do most of this for you, but you'll learn how to use the tool for future use, is it shows you what your reduction opportunities are, as well as your environmental opportunities. Then it'll show you the impact from a life cycle perspective. So in terms of your food waste, is the majority of the impact happening in your raw materials? Is it happening in your production, or is it happening at the waste end? And then it'll give you some visuals in terms of the value of the avoidable waste, the energy and natural gas, the carbon emissions, as well as the water in various graphic forms. And then it'll give you a summary of your root causes and your potential solutions. And then it'll give you the economic breakdown. in terms of what are your best options, and you can toggle back and forth based on the various variables. Do you want to look at it low capital? Do you want to look at it from a net present value or highest or lowest priority? And you get to assign that. And then, of course, along the bottom, it gives you again a recap of the environmental and social aspects of the opportunities. The other tool that we're going to use within the system in this program is our Key Performance Indicator dashboard. And this focuses on 4 main aspects that we think every business should have in their indicators. And that is operational excellence, people, products, and partners. And so what we've done is we've put together 14 indicators that we think every business should be using, ranging from environmental, social, and economic. And we will specifically use the waste indicator in this program. You're welcome to use all of them, but we'll focus in on these in particular. And what we'll encourage you to do is to actually set a target within the system and then track against how you're doing against that target. So this is a screenshot again of how you engage with the system. You put the data into the system, you can upload the data or manually enter it, and then it'll give you a graphic representation of how you are doing against time and against that target. The Key Performance Indicator dashboard will be offered to all the participants at no cost during the program, and this is valued at $135 a month, so it's a great opportunity to leverage a fantastic software system that was developed by Metrio. In terms of the specifics, once EnviroStewards has gone on site and completed the actual food loss and waste assessment, and we've leveraged the toolkit, what you will receive is an action plan. So it'll quantify the total food loss and waste in tons that's happening in your facility. It'll give you that dollar value, the economic and social impact of that food that's wasted. And then it'll present to you some solutions on how to actually reduce the food loss and waste at source. And then that's where we will encourage you to set some targets against those opportunities and use the Key Performance Indicator dashboard to track progress. In terms of the specific manufacturer requirements, we do ask that you will sign a memorandum of understanding with us, Provision. And the MOU essentially states that you promise to complete the project before January 3rd, 2019. That's our drop dead date from the Walmart Foundation, and so that's a really important piece for us. If you withdraw before you complete the program, there is a clause in the MOU that says that you will be obligated to pay the true value of the invested time at your facility so that we don't lose that funding and we're able to work with another company to complete our 50 food loss and waste assessments. You will be asked to make a financial contribution to the program, and that contribution will be anywhere from a 15 to 50% contribution depending on the number of employees at the facility that is engaging. So for example, the $10,000 assessment, if you are a micro or small, so you have 0 to 25 employees, we'll offer you an 85% cost share. And so you would contribute $1,500 to the program. We have a limit to the number of facilities in each of the categories. And so in this case, it is 2 facilities that can participate. In the small, 26 to 100, small to medium-ish, you will contribute 25% and we will contribute 75%, so you'll pay $2,500. And we have 6 spots available in that category. The 101 to 499, you will contribute 40%, we will contribute 60%, and so it's a $4,000 contribution from the manufacturer. We have 32 spots in that category. And then for the very large facilities, 500 plus employees at the single site, it'll be a 50% cost share at a $5,000 contribution, and we've got 10 spots in that category. But what we want to make sure doesn't happen is that if you are interested in a particular category and it happens to be full, we don't want to turn you away. So we'll simply say the next category that has available spots, you can pay at that contribution. So for example, if a micro or a small really wanted to engage with the program, but there were no spots left, they could go into the 26 to 100 and pay the $2,500 to be part of the program. You will also be required as a manufacturer or processor to complete a background information questionnaire to help us to establish that baseline about what's happening in the industry from a food loss and waste perspective. You'll be required to complete that public trust risk assessment questionnaire, and then allowing us to actually do the employee education and awareness session. If you haven't already registered in the sustainability management system, we will ask that you register in the system and that you review the food loss and waste toolkit and all of the data that's been inputted by EnviroStewards, and that you input data into the key performance indicator dashboard and set some targets. We do ask that from a data sharing perspective, you give us permission to see your data. We will keep it all very confidential. We'll sign an NDA if you ask. And really what's important is that in aggregate, we will aggregate all of the data from the program participants in order to tell that story about what's happening in our industry. There will be opportunities to participate in case studies for those that had really exciting results and you want to tell a positive story. We will engage with up to 5 case studies, and so you can engage with us in that area. And then we do ask that you complete a program evaluation so that we can leverage that evaluation to perhaps do bigger and more programs or learn and make it better. Some of our program goals and objectives. We want to make sure that we understand how effective our tools are. And so we'll first translate all of the tools, make them available in both English and French. We are going to be collecting a lot of the best practices as we go over the next year. And so what you'll see at the end of the program is an addition of best practices into the food loss and waste toolkit. And then again, feedback on the actual assessments and the tools that you use so that we can continuously improve both of those. We also want to make sure that we're doing lots of outreach. Crystal talked a lot about that from the best food facts, but also in terms of our case study development and sharing that up and down the value chain. And then we also want to solicit interest for those who are really engaged in this space to become part of our food loss and waste stakeholder collaborative. We've had the collaborative in place since 2014, and it's a really great opportunity to direct the work that we're doing, but also a large scale across the country. So we are aligned with the National Zero Waste Council on some of their strategy work. The collaborative was responsible for the Solutions Forum that we did last spring. So a fairly influential group. And then we have a target manufacturing group that helps us decide what should we do next in this space. So in summary, in terms of the specific next steps, I'll go through this again at the end also, but in essence, what we're looking is that you confirm your interests today. So give us your name, your company, and the number of employees. And then from there, you'll have an opportunity to sign the MOU. And it'll be on a first come, first spot secured basis. And so what we'll do is from the moment that you receive the MOU, you'll have 2 weeks, if you were at the event or in the live stream today, you'll have 2 weeks where we will hold that spot for you. And you can review the MOU, get all of the necessary approvals, and then we'll proceed from there. Should you sign the MOU, which we hope you will, then you can select your food loss and waste assessment option. And again, as I said, Bruce will go through those details, and we guarantee that you'll get the focus prevention assessment as a minimum, which those the three key assessments. It looks like we have a question from the live stream, so go ahead, Cynthia.
This is from Nathan Warcanton, Ontario Greenhouse. He is asking, what is considered processors and manufacturers? Are there NAICS restrictions? Is washing, packing fresh produce considered processing manufacturing for this program?
Yes. Easy answer. Yes. So packaging, processing, manufacturing, you'll see in the MOU, it actually defines those 3 specific categories in the NAICS codes associated with it. But yes, they would be eligible. Mucci Foods, as an example, is a company that we work with on a regular basis. They're a greenhouse where they pack all of their fresh produce. Lots of fresh produce companies work and engage with us. So absolutely. Thank you for the question. And then in terms, again, going back to sort of the summary, you'll complete your backgrounder, your public trust risk assessment questionnaires, conduct the employee engagement session, think about whether or not you want to be part of the case studies, and do the evaluation.